values to valued culture. Here is your host, Will Scott, interviewing another CEO about leading culture in their company.
Welcome, listeners, to another Culture Czars interview where we talk to CEOs that care about corporate culture. We call this series From Core Values to Valued Culture, and our purpose is to help CEOs create environments where employees love where they work and why they work. And Tony Mirchandani is CEO and Czar of Culture at RTM Associates. Hi, Tony.
How you doing? Well, thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And before we get into culture at RTM Associates, tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure, be happy to. We are an engineering consulting firm, so we are really in the, I see myself in the people business. The company itself is about 200 people. We're nationwide. We have 10 offices around the country, and it's really a large group of engineers that have learned how to work with each other through the different offices and build a common culture across state lines.
Well, good for you, and congratulations. So you're in multiple cities.
Yeah. We have 10 offices around the country. We're all the way from California to Florida, Texas to Wisconsin. So nothing in the Northeast yet, but we're working on it.
Okay, very good. And so I'll be interested in a little bit at how you manage culture across multiple locations. But generally speaking, what do you think of, Tony, when we ask about corporate culture?
When it comes to our corporate culture, when someone asks us what the culture of the company is really like, my best answer is it's a combination of the behavioral patterns of the team. And the only way we're able to influence those different behavioral patterns is the examples that we set, and not really the outcomes that we're looking for as much as the type of environment that we're looking for. So we have our core values, we live and breathe, we fire based on our core values, and everybody knowing and understanding that and seeing the leadership team behave in those is what drives our company culture.
Very cool. So you have gone as far as defining your culture with some core values, and I know you've actually got those on the walls as well. You've got an interesting display for your values there. So tell us about how did you go about the process of coming up with your core values?
It was extremely long, drawn-out process, actually.
Okay.
And even though the core values, there's 4 basic core values at the end. And what our challenge was, we used Traction as our operating system here. And through our facilitated kickoff, we spent basically a day figuring out what the company's core values are. And we were very diligent on making sure that the core values were focused on what is already represented within the company, not some aspirational core values that we wish we had. And in doing this, we developed our core values. It was a group of 8 of us, and after quite a bit of debate, we came down to the 4 that we really felt represented RTM. And if people didn't fall into and believe in those core values, we didn't want them within the organization.
Okay.
So that as our filter was probably the most challenging piece of it, and is what kept it to such a tight short list of core values.
Great. And I understand the EOS process for doing that. And where did you end up then? Tell us about what are the core values?
So it's really focused around teamwork and people. So being collaborative communicators is a key component within our organization. Our entire business model is based on people working well together. If we have great engineers and they don't have the ability to communicate with each other, work in a team environment, they're going to fail at their jobs. And it's just because of the services we offer and the way our industry is. So being strong communicators, a team environment, and an environment where we all succeed together and we fail together. And we have to live through those core values as a company. So an example would be if the company has a great year and a couple offices land up losing money and a couple offices land up making money, if we still have a good year overall as a company, everyone in the organization is getting a bonus. So in a sense, what we preach to everybody is we make it to the Super Bowl, and we win, everyone's getting a ring.
Okay.
And you could be a superstar. If we don't make it to the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. There's no big payout for you, because that's just the way the structure is designed.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So, and are the core values tied into that bonus? I mean, presumably that's a financially based bonus, right?
Yeah, that is a financially based bonus, and the core values are actually tied into our review process.
How do you do that?
What's that?
Yeah, how do you do that, Tony?
So all of our reviews, we have our core values listed, and we talk about and celebrate how people have been able to excel their careers and their teams based on those core values, and each of our individual team members really meeting those core values. We actually took it a step farther this year in having a competition for people to be able to nominate other people within the organization that were exhibiting core values. Oddly, we had, I want to say, 277 nominations. And so through a 3-month period. So it was really eye-opening that people not only understood them, but they truly were seeing their colleagues exhibit those core values through the organization.
I love it. So lots of people catching their colleagues doing what I call committing a core value. And
yes.
Then, do you have a nomination process? How do they nominate folks on that?
It was a nomination process that I believe they submitted something to the office managers, and then they all funneled it back to corporate. And they actually had to describe what behavior or thing occurred and what core value it was tied to. So it also obviously helped reinforce our core values, and then we celebrated that through some internal messaging and communication with the teams on a weekly basis.
Absolutely. At Culture Czars, we talk about 9 deeds that help you build a culture where you're bringing the core values alive, you're making them thrive, and then using them to drive performance. And in that thrive part is indeed that they're around what processes do you have for capturing people committing core values, gathering those stories and retelling those stories, so the culture kind of starts to breed on itself.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Very nice, very nice.
And the very best thing we can have is if somebody identifies somebody not exhibiting a core value and actually can call them out on it and have them change their behavior, that's the holy grail of culture.
Yeah, great. What did you do once you discerned your core values? You had this all day offsite, you sort of worked on those. Can you take us, what steps did you take after that?
We took those core values and we started sharing them with the teams, and actually having kind of like fireside chats about it, talking about them and seeing if they really fit into the core values of each of the different offices. And as we honed in on it, we realized these 4 core values of ours really do match the description of what a RTM team member is like.
Yeah, okay. So you've got that now, you defined the culture, and your current team, I presume, is pretty much they're all fitting the culture. What happens when you start recruiting people? How do you select for a fit?
That's one of the filters we have. Is will they match? Will they fit the core values of the company? And our recruiting teams all have those. And when they're out at recruiting fairs, that's what they're thinking about: is how well are people going to actually fit into our core values? And core values aren't a perfect definition of culture, in my opinion, because we have grown through acquisition, and through the acquisition process, your culture changes.
Yeah.
While your core value doesn't change. So it's not a direct reflection of culture from what I've exhibited.
So when you acquire a company, Tony, what do you do around the core values? Is there something that you do to train or let people know what your culture is, or how do you manage that?
So when we go in to acquire a company, they have to already fit our core values. If they don't already believe in the core values and are already exhibiting it, we won't do the deal. That's our ultimate filter. But culture in the organization is going to change. And the way I describe it to a lot of the acquirees is if you have a large family and someone just got married and they're bringing their new spouse to the party, if you know that spouse and the party's going to get a lot better with having that spouse at the event, it was a good culture fit. And if everyone's upset, there goes the party because Jack Smith is coming, it was a really bad culture fit.
Yeah.
So core values are really like what we truly believe in, and culture is the environment that we're creating with those core values at heart. So we see them slightly different. One drives the other, but they both really have to be in line in order to be able to have a strong, healthy culture across offices.
Yeah. I imagine when you're looking at companies, I mean, of course, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have that gut feel too, that sense of things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you go into a potential acquiree at first, I'm sure you've got some gut feel going on. But you find it just really helps to have the defined words of the culture, so you can ask yourself, do these guys, you know, really fit our core values?
Yeah, no, it definitely helps, because otherwise sometimes as entrepreneurs, we want to chase the next butterfly out there. And it might not be appropriate if it doesn't fit one of the core values. An example, actually, I could share with you, we had a wonderful deal we were going to be able to put together, and we killed it about 50% of the way through the negotiation because they had profit centers. And we're firm believers that we all make it to the Super Bowl or we all don't. And by definition, a profit center, one office can win while the other office is losing. So, we went back to the core values, and it's so dead against that. We had to, it's a very well financially performing company. One method's not better than the other, but it didn't fit the way we decided to run the company, so we had to pass on it.
Yeah, I understand. So you put culture above profits in that case, but ultimately, if you'd made the wrong decision, your profits would have been negatively affected anyway with the bad cultural fit.
Absolutely, yes. That would have spread like a disease throughout our organization since we're not set up like that.
Yeah. So do you find your employees, like perhaps the ones that are there in your headquarters in Chicago, that have been there a long time, are they very aware of the core values? Could they recite them if I stopped them in the hallway? And do they use them in everyday language?
I don't think we've got that good at it yet. No, no. I think they, when they read the core values, they would definitely be able to agree that they fit the culture and the behavioral patterns. But I don't think everyone in the organization can recite the core values.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
How many do you have?
Just 4 core values.
4. Okay, 4 is a good number. That tends to be quite memorable. Yeah. And then, so what about with so we're talking a little bit about the acquisition side of things, but when you're just like driving the business or prioritizing things, and you're looking at increasing sales or a new marketing plan or profits, other strategic things that you're considering, where is culture rank amongst your priorities there?
I see culture as more of a fitness type of thing. It's not something that you can rank and put on the back burner, go focus on a little bit later. It's something that needs to be focused on every single day, but in small increments. So you're living the core values and you have a strong, healthy culture, or you don't. We've seen the moods of offices increase and decrease. So, just like in a household. Everybody could be crabby for a while. Everybody could be in a great mood. We see that going on in offices, and we'll do something proactive to be able to create a more positive environment if it's something going on for the short term. But it doesn't change the overall culture of the company. So keeping a strong, healthy culture is something that we just try to drip in every day. Okay,
so it's at least as important as those other things, and you're kind of saying that if the culture's right and there's a good fit and everything's going well, then the other things will align.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So structurally, how are you organized across your locations? Do you have like a managing director or a lead in each city, and are you communicating through them, or do you have any kind of monthly drumbeat of meetings? Tell us about that.
So we have office leaders in all of the different offices.
Okay.
And in order to be able to avoid the traditional hierarchical structure, we message and have planning sessions, not just throughout the different office leaders, but at each of the office levels. So we've taken the traction approach, the L10 type meeting, and we have 2 L10s in every single office. And we use that structure. We have people that could be 2 years out of college all the way up to a principal level in an L10 meeting with a particular type of focus. And then that office might have their own L10, and then we have L10s that go across multiple offices. And that's our way of being able to keep all the circles connected with each other. So depending on the particular subject, we could have an L10 focused on technology development, office development, region development, or the company itself.
Okay, very cool. And so those are happening weekly, those L10s?
Everything from weekly to monthly, depending on what the topic is, yes.
Okay, yeah. And do you ever get everybody together and sort of try and communicate via, I don't know, using technology or anything?
No. We try to avoid large online meetings best we can. We can do a one-way message. You can't have a open conversation.
Yeah.
So that would just be a one-way communication, which we could do through email that way.
Yes.
But
Okay.
in general, try to avoid it.
Yeah. And is there? Do you have any plans as you look to the head that you'd like to do? Do you ever think, I want to do this to help culture, or you got any future plans or ideas basically around continuing to enhance the culture that you've built there?
Yeah, we come up with ideas all the time. What we can actually implement is a different challenge. But a couple of the ideas that we came up with that we have been able to implement is, everybody does office outings. But within an office, we could have 20 to 30 people, and they're broken up into studios. So instead of just doing once a year office party or a couple times a year, different studios will get together and go out and have their own outing. So every studio has a small budget that we've asked them, every 3-4 months, go spend a few $1,000, go out, do an outing as a studio. We'll have different studios that are going to get together, do outings together. Sometimes they'll do trips together. They'll do outings with other offices across the country. And there's strategic relationship building that actually occurs through those types of outings, but it definitely helps drive our culture. And those are tactics that we've tested out in a couple of offices. It tends to work well. Then we open it up to the whole RTM network.
Mm. So what do you mean by studio? Do you have multiple studios in a city?
Yes. So every studio is a group of people that are between 5 and 8 within an office. And one office could have anything from 1 studio to 5 studios.
Oh. And is a studio like a self-contained team that works on a client project? Is that what that
exactly.
is?
Yeah.
So all the skills that you sell to your clients would be in a team or a studio?
Exactly. And every studio is going to handle between 3 and 15 clients, depending on the size of the projects with those different clients. So that way our clients are going back to the same people. That studio is working with that same group majority of the time. They start to get used to each other's behavioral patterns. They build relationships. They go to outings together. So those bonds are really formed. And they're able to overserve our clients.
Okay. And then, Tony, talking about return on investment, if you like, or the financial benefits that can come from. I'm always interested in trying to tie hard numbers to the soft skills of managing culture in a business, and it is hard to quantify. But can you say that by being deliberate and managing your culture the way you have, that has helped your top line and your bottom line grow?
Oh, it absolutely has. It's critical to 2 components. Number one, our ability to be able to create a cohesive group. Those studios, for instance, they work better together on their 10th project than they did on their first project. So as long as that group stays together, profitability from that group keeps going up year over year. Also, having a very strong culture reduces our attrition, and low attrition obviously has obvious financial benefits to it on its own.
Yes.
The description I'll give a lot of people back to the sports analogy is, you could have a B team or a C team, but if they work very well cohesively together, that B team is going to be able to beat out a bunch of superstars that don't like working together.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, that's awesome. And So thanks for going through the interview today. Is there any other advice that you'd like to pass on to the podcast listeners?
Yeah. Culture is definitely something that you can help drive and direct to some degree, but you're not able to go out and just say, hey, I want the Google culture, so I'm going to start copying what Google does or Apple does and so on. Those are different companies. They have their own unique cultures, and all the things that we see from the outside are not necessarily things that created that internal culture. That internal culture is really the people and the behavior. So if you hire people that exhibit the culture that you're looking for, you're going to get the culture that you want.
Yes.
More than any of the activities.
Yeah, you can't plagiarize anybody else's. You've got to determine what yours is, describe it, and then build it. And of course, that's more fun too, isn't it, that way? I mean, I think people forget the enjoyment side of this.
Absolutely. And, from when we talk about mergers and acquisitions, what makes it or breaks it is 100% culture. Everything else can be somehow put together and make it work between the lawyers and the accountants. But what nobody can fix is the bad culture.
Yeah. So you must actually pass on quite a few potential acquisitions then on that basis.
Yeah. We'll pass on 90% of the deals that we look at, if not 95%.
Wow. Okay. So is this a full-time job for you now, doing the M&A?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine you could only do that if you had, a solid team, of course, that was, keeping everything, the daily business running for you. And culture's got to be a big part of knowing that it's in good hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of trust that goes in.
Yeah, and I like to remind people that one of the benefits that comes from having a good set of core values that permeates the organization is that folks that you're delegating to can make decisions really the same way you would. So you don't need to be there all the time, because they're making decisions the way you would, because they've got that effectively to refer to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ultimate success is when they're making better decisions than you would have.
Better decisions, yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Tony. Well, this has been fabulous. Thank you very much for making yourself available for this today. And wow, just another company that's enjoying screaming success. And one of the reasons, at least, is because you embraced culture, and it sounds like it's as important as anything else to you today.
Oh, by far. Thank you for having me. And culture is what definitely makes it or breaks it here.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the success of RTM Associates, and good luck. Thanks very much.
Very much so.
Cheers.
Have a great one.
Cheers. Thank you, Tony. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at cultureczars.com, and we'll see you next time.